This is the story of a man whose name shines brightly among the companions of the Prophet Muhammad. A man whose journey from luxury to sacrifice is a tale of faith, strength, and devotion. Born into wealth and luxury, he was the talk of the city. No young man in Mecca was as pampered by his parents as Musab. The women of Mecca admired him, the nobles respected him, and the gatherings of the elite were not complete without him. One day, Musab heard the whispers spreading through Mecca about Muhammad. He heard that this man, known as Al-Amin, the truthful and trustworthy, was now claiming prophethood. That he called the people to worship one God, abandoning the idols their ancestors had revered for generations. Mecca was in turmoil. The leaders of Quraysh were outraged. The streets buzzed with arguments and debates. And Musab? He listened. He was young, charming, and surrounded by wealth, but beneath it all, he possessed a sharp mind and a heart open to wisdom. He soon discovered that Muhammad and his followers were meeting in secret at Dar al-Arqam, a house near Mount Safa. One night, curiosity and longing drove him there. He entered quietly and sat among the believers, his heart pounding. The Prophet recited the words of Allah, and as Musab listened, the truth struck him like a lightning bolt. His heart swelled with a new kind of joy, one greater than all the pleasures he had ever known. In that moment, Mus'ab ibn Umair, the spoiled jewel of Mecca, became something greater, a believer. The Prophet, seeing the emotion in his young companion's eyes, placed a blessed hand on his chest, calming the storm within him. From that night forward, Mus'ab was a changed man. But there was one person Mus'ab feared, his mother, Kunas bint Malik. A woman of immense power and influence, she was feared by many. Musab, for all his courage, dreaded her reaction more than the wrath of the entire Quraysh. So he kept his Islam a secret. He continued to attend Dar al-Arqam, learning from the Prophet, strengthening his faith, and avoiding his mother's anger. But Mecca was a city of whispers. Secrets did not last. One day, Uthman ibn Talha saw Musab entering Dar al-Arqam. Suspicious, he followed him a second time and saw him praying just like Muhammad. He rushed to inform Musab's mother. When Musab stood before her, the nobles of Mecca gathered. They demanded an explanation. He did not hesitate. With unwavering confidence, he recited the words of Allah, calling them to the truth. His mother, enraged, raised her hand to strike him, but something stopped her. Perhaps it was the light in his eyes, the quiet strength in his voice. She could no longer see the spoiled, pampered son she had raised. Before her stood a man transformed. Yet, she would not forgive him. Instead, she locked him away in her house, imprisoning him to break his will. But Musab was determined. When news spread that the Prophet had instructed some believers to migrate to Abyssinia, he saw his chance. He outwitted his guards and escaped, leaving behind the only life he had ever known. In Abyssinia, Musab lived among fellow exiles, free to practice his faith. He returned briefly to Mecca and was imprisoned again by his mother. But by then, she knew she had lost him. She tried one last time to control him, threatening to disown him, to strip him of every privilege. Musab stood firm. "Oh my mother," he pleaded, "I am advising you, and my heart is with you. Please bear witness that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is his messenger." Her eyes burned with fury. "By the stars, I will never enter your religion. I will not disgrace myself." And so, the gates of luxury closed behind him. The boy who once wore the finest silks now walked in rough, tattered clothes. He ate one day and starved the next. Yet, he was content, because he had chosen Allah. One day, as he approached a gathering of the Prophet and his companions, they lowered their heads and wept. The Prophet smiled sadly and said, "I saw Musab in Mecca, and there was no youth more pampered by his parents than him." Then he abandoned all that for the love of Allah and his messenger. When Islam began to spread, the Prophet needed someone to travel to Medina and teach the new believers. This was no small mission. It required wisdom, patience, and strength. He chose Mus'ab ibn Umair. At that time, only 12 people in Medina had embraced Islam. By the time Musab was done, Medina had become the stronghold of Islam. He won the hearts of the people with his sincerity, his piety, and his character. He converted Sa'di ibn Umair and Usaid ibn Hudair, two of the most influential men in the city. When they embraced Islam, the entire tribe followed. Within months, 70 new believers journeyed to Mecca to pledge allegiance to the Prophet. Musab had succeeded beyond imagination. Then came the Battle of Uhud. The Prophet needed a flag bearer, someone strong, fearless, and devoted. He called Mus'ab ibn Umair. As the battle raged, Musab fought like an army by himself. The Quraysh sought to kill the Prophet, and Musab made himself their target. He raised the standard of Islam high, drawing the enemy's attention. A warrior named Ibn Kumar struck him, severing his right hand. Musab grabbed the banner with his left. Another blow came, his left hand was cut off. Still, he clutched the banner to his chest, reciting the words of Allah. And Muhammad is but a messenger, messengers have passed away before him, Quran 3:144. A final spear pierced him, and he fell. The Prophet later stood over his body, tears streaming down his face. I saw you in Mecca, and there was no one more precious than you. And now, here you are, clothed in a garment so small that if we cover your head, your feet are exposed. They buried him with only a simple cloth, covering his head and placing grass over his feet. The Prophet looked at his fallen companion and said, Among the believers are men who have been true to their covenant with Allah. Quran 33:23. Peace be upon you, O Musab. Peace be upon you, O martyr. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon you. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe to the channel for the sake of Allah and to support us. Feel free to check our other videos. Assalamu alaikum.